Bien, muy buenas tardes, señor Alfredo Haas de Bariloche. ¿Cómo le va?
Muy bien, Mica, todo bien por aquí, disfrutando de un día nublado.
Nublado, pero en Bariloche, nada más ni nada menos.
No es poco, no es poco.
¿Cómo estás pasando esta cuarentena, este día número 50 y pico? Ya pasó muchísimo.
Sí, pasó muchísimo. Bueno, nada, tratando de pasarlo de la mejor manera, mirando acá bien cerquita a los entrenamientos del día, ocupándonos de nuestras clases online y guardándonos y tratando de conservar la salud física y mental.
Bien, lo más importante. Bueno, vamos a lo que nos compete hoy en día. Vamos a contarle a la gente. Primero te quiero agradecer que te hayas conectado y hayas tenido el tiempo para hablar un poco. Tanto Wally como vos tuvieron la oportunidad de poder entrevistar a Justin LoFranco. Justin LoFranco es el creador, fundador de Morning Chalk Up. Y bueno, tuvieron la oportunidad de entrevistarlo. Te quiero agradecer porque, como digo, yo no sé inglés, así que así como me ayudaste en la transmisión de los gays, me ayudaste hoy. Así que bueno, ¿cómo lo viviste? ¿Cómo estuvo? Ahora en breve lo vamos a pasar para que la gente pueda ver la nota.
Muy bien, realmente la verdad que bueno, gracias a ustedes también por convocarme. Yo ya me siento parte de la familia de Vox TV, así que
Totalmente,
siempre
sí,
estamos acá.
real.
La verdad que fue un privilegio. Justin, como decía, es el fundador de Morning Chalk Up. Y me parece que lo que resume, lo van a ver después en la nota, lo que resume realmente lo que es ese medio, es algo que uno abre a la mañana cuando está desayunando en su mail, que llega siempre a la edición de Morning Chalk Up, y tiene bien resumidas las cosas más importantes que se están, o que ocurrieron en el día anterior, o que se están desarrollando, o que van a ocurrir en la semana que viene, para cualquiera que esté metido en el ámbito del CrossFit, ya sea un entrenador, ya sea un atleta, ya sea un dueño de un gimnasio, o un espectador, realmente está todo súper condensado, bien armado, bien redactado, y es una entrega diaria que por lo menos para mí es la fuente fundamental de información que recibo todos los días. Así que fue un privilegio poder hablar con él y que él explicara cómo surgió esta idea y realmente es muy interesante.
Así es, un privilegio, así que los invitamos a todos a que disfruten de esta entrevista con Justin LoFranco, creador, fundador de Morning Chacal.
Hello, Justin.
Hello. Thanks
How
for having
are
me
you?
on. I'm doing excellent. I'm enjoying the weather here in Southern California for the first time in a long time. I'm not jetting off to a new part of the world, so just hanging out in my sister's backyard, not even at my own place. So I'm enjoying some family time.
Perfect.
Great.
Well, first of all, we want to welcome to Box TV. It's a pleasure to share a screen with you. And for those who may not know you, Justin is the editor-in-chief of Morning Child Cup, and we would like to know how you became a CrossFit journalist.
So, long story short, I after I graduated from college, I moved to Washington, D.C., kind of the center of politics and the government for the United States of America. And I went to work in the United States Congress. So I was a young, aspiring press aide for an elected official and continued to work in that environment for the next 7+ years, and worked in Congress and worked on some presidential campaigns and got firsthand exposure to the media environment. And I wasn't on the journalism side. I was on the opposite side, fielding questions and working on messaging and working with reporters. But it gave me a firsthand look at how this unfolds in the biggest stage in our country. And so that gave me a little bit of a taste for the media life. And I'd already been a CrossFitter for a very long time. So I've now hit my 10th year anniversary of doing CrossFit. And so when I left politics, I took an idea that we have in politics, and that's kind of newsletter that starts your day, and it lays out all of the important things going on in your industry. And so it was like, for us, when I was working in DC, it was like, these are the major pieces of legislation happening, or these are the storylines you want to follow. These are the big kind of headlines that have come and happened since yesterday. And it really sets the tone for your day. And I wanted to build something like that for CrossFit and take that experience that I had in politics and with media and then bring that to the CrossFit world. And that sort of continued to unfold now 4 years and a couple of months later into more of a multimedia company that is doing a lot more interviews and original news reporting and stuff. But we still consider ourselves the center of commerce for what's going on in CrossFit globally. And we try and take all of that news and distill that for you so that you say, oh, I get it. I see what's happening in the world and I can understand it. And then I can go about my day. And if you work in the industry, then maybe that changes, how you approach your day. But that's the basic concept.
Perfect. Alf?
Totally. I mean, that is how it works. I have my morning coffee with morning chockup, and
yeah, it's exactly
I know anything I need to know about what's going on in CrossFit, and it does work. And it's great to hear you say it, because and take it from me that I'm a consumer of the product. It works in that way. I mean, it's what I need to know, minimum requirements or minimum information, but the important information as a spectator, as a business owner, as a coach, or athlete, or whatever.
Right. And if you want to know more, there's links off to, if you want to see the lift or you want to see the press release or the statement or something, we put that in a way that you can access it. If you want to read more, you don't need to see everything. You don't need to see it in complete detail, but if you want to, it's there for you. And so we allow users to kind of pursue more information should they choose to.
Totally.
Perfect.
Great. Well, I'm going to take on the second question for you, Justin. Okay, so we already kind of know what's the official invite list for the new CrossFit Games. That's been sort of cleared out, but we do know that California has strict regulations, sanitary regulations regarding as this pandemic COVID-19. So the big question is, how do you imagine the games are going to take place if it's a hard one.
So my take here is, does it look like, so right now in the state of California, the CrossFit Games cannot have 100+ individuals on site and continue to be operating legally with the regulations in the state of California. Something that's a little bit different in the United States than it is in other countries is that our federal government will set a standard of some kind. And then oftentimes there are many things that are left to the governor of each state to determine. Some complete in their entirety, and some things, they can increase the standard from a federal baseline. Like, for instance, minimum wage is set as a federal baseline, and then a state like California can come in and say, no, in California, we know it's way more expensive to live, so our baseline is going to be higher, but you can never go lower than the federal standard.
Yeah, you got a wiggle room. So
you've got it, and this is your line. When it comes to things like reopening and determining, business-based decisions like quantity of individuals that may be on site at one specific time, which businesses can open, a lot of these decisions, quite frankly, are left up to the governor. And the governor of California has signaled that the rollout for returning to normal is going to be a lot longer than it is going to be for some other areas. And so there are many states in many states in the United States where they're already starting to do and allow certain things. For instance, some states are saying you can have up to 10 people in a class at any given time, and that's appropriate, as long as you adhere to social distancing requirements like 6 feet, and you have sanitation requirements that you adhere to, et cetera. As long as those things are done, then you are allowed to continue to operate at this time. Now in California, they haven't allowed those things yet, and so currently the CrossFit Games as planned really could not go on, and so those things need to change, and the environment around that needs to be in such a case where the state is going to feel comfortable with a larger scale event like this going on. Now they won't have spectators, but if they have 30 athletes that are male, 30 athletes that are female, that's 60. Yeah. With support staff, live streaming staff, games operations staff, medical staff to ensure safety and any kind of things like that. They have a lot of they have a large number. This number is increasing, and it's based off conversations we've had with people who have worked for CrossFit. It's hard to imagine a number being less than 100, and 100 is quite a large number of people. Now, CrossFit hasn't exactly let on what protocols they may have in place. Like they may shuttle people in and shuttle people out. We don't know, and we don't know if they're having conversations with the state of California to determine what the line is. But the line right now would be crossed by having 25 people on site. And so they need to, obviously there's a lot of time, still 2.5 months until the games is set to kick off. So there is a lot of time for this to adjust. And that's certainly I imagine that's their hope, is that the situation evolves to the point where they can do the games as planned.
Okay. Yes, August, it looks like so far in this environment, but well, let's see what happened. That you told, right. 16 people is almost 3 or 4 times this number for this machine of CrossFit games. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
It's a little number, 3 or 4 people for only one athlete. I think the judges, the volunteers, a lot of people, and I imagine that the athlete doesn't appear magically in this place. He must travel, a hotel, and everything is
logistically. Aromas is a bit of a challenging location. One of the reasons is that it's not exactly located in a center of commerce. So the closest airport is San Jose, which is fine. You've been there. San Jose is an hour and a half away from Aromas, which is fine, but you're going to need to rent a car. We don't exactly know how easy it is to rent a car these days, because they're going to have some safety protocols for the car rental now, and they're going to need it clean, and they're going to whatever. But okay, they're going to rent a car. There aren't a lot of hotels in Aromas. There are some in neighboring cities, but again, that increases your distance of travel and your location. So where if they're going to shuttle people off site to another area, where is that area? Because the ranch is, while it is privately owned property and it's quite a large property, it's unclear exactly, like, could you put them over here? But there aren't a lot of buildings. There are some
buildings. There's nothing around. I've been there.
It's challenging on a lot of different fronts logistically, and that's, they have time to solve these, and they have had some time already. Since they've known they're going to be moving they announced this not quite a month ago, but about 3 weeks ago, they were moving to Aromas. So they have had some time to consider these things and to figure out how they're going to put it forth. But there are a lot of logistical challenges to this. Not to mention the fact that, somebody could obviously be passing through an airport coming from any part of the U.S. or from another part of the globe, contract the virus and bring it to the ranch. And that's a real possibility, and it's something that has to be considered. And we just saw this. We just had a sporting event here in the United States, a UFC fight, where one of the fighters showed up and tested positive for COVID-19, and he had to go home. Thankfully, nobody else that we know of has contracted the virus at that situation, but there were only about 20 fighters. Was there 20? Yeah, I think there was about 18 fighters total, 9 fights, about 18 fighters. This is going to be 60 athletes plus a whole bunch more sports staff. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is a cause for concern.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thanks. I don't want to extend that much. Wally, can I go a bit further in the question? So, because it's for me, I can't finish understanding why are they insisting on going to Aromas. I know, I get it that the ranch has a significant meaning because of it's where CrossFit started and all that. But then you got neighboring states like I don't know, Mayhem in Tennessee. They're gonna host a big competition for all the teams. So if I were thinking about doing the games, I would take out of California into another state that has more maybe lax.
Well, if I could hypothesize a little bit and just kind of give my estimation here. Number one, having it at the ranch in Aromas allows complete control over the location because it's owned by Dave Castro, the director of the CrossFit Games. He certainly has the ability to, he doesn't have to ask for permission from anybody except the state of California. So, if you're going to go rent a location or bring stuff on site, they could be mandating, and they could also require payment and anything like that. Right now, this is a pretty easy bet. It's like putting it in somebody's backyard, which is about as easy as it can get. The other reason, you know, CrossFit's headquarters is not too far from Aromas. And so when you think about, hey, how are we going to do this? We're not going to fly 25 games, either full-time staff or contractors from Santa Cruz to some other location. That limits the amount of travel. And when you're thinking about doing some crazy logistical challenges are certainly easier when you know the location and you know it's in its ins and its outs. Now, maybe it may not be an optimal location for some of the reasons we've talked about already, like the state of California and its location on the map specifically, you know, but they do have a lot that's under their control, and they can plow the land, they can build a rig on the land, they can do whatever they want on the land because it's theirs, and they don't need anybody's permission. So there are some reasons why this makes a lot easier. There are some things that they are completely under their control here, and what the heck you do with the ranch, that's completely in their control, and the staff is only 25 miles up the road or whatever it is in Scotts Valley.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, next question is, well, we know that the age group makes a huge part of CrossFit competition and business. Do you think that they are being neglected in some point?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, we reported last week, Tommy put out a story and we pulled the data looking at, hey, how many age group athletes make up the entire open participation? And we knew it was a lot, but we didn't know it was as much as we thought. In fact, as of the last CrossFit Open, they were essentially half of all athletes competing in the Open are age group athletes. It's 49.8% of all athletes competing in the Open last year are age group athletes. So the trend has been moving rather quickly from 2018 to 2019 to 2020 Open, and more are age group athletes making up a larger portion of all individual athletes in the Open. And that's a staggering statistic. And when you look at, okay, so what do age group athletes get as far as representation or media coverage at the CrossFit Games? You're going to look at that and go, well, we're certainly not receiving half. Now, to be fair, I'm not exactly saying they should receive half, but I don't really think they're receiving 10% either. So I think they have a very strong argument to make to say, guys, like, we're being really underrepresented. Not only was our, not only did you cut our spots at the games from 20 to 10, but you reduced in its entirety our live stream coverage as well. Whereas the individual competition, guess what happened there? It increased from 40 men and 40 women to 120 plus men and 120 plus women. So, I think the numbers speak for themselves when you look at it like that. And I think that an age group athlete has every right to kind of say, guys, like, I think you really, we knew you kind of wrote us off before, but now you really write us off. You reduced our divisions and you took our media coverage. While at the same time, CrossFit's messaging is saying how important older athletes are and how that is the way we go from this stage of affiliation and this stage of participation to this stage is by embracing other pockets of individuals who are not this fire breather category. These people that just want to go in, they just want to work out super hard and mess themselves up and just be lying on their back. Part of the reason why Greg introduced the visual image of older athletes doing things in their couch and in their living room is because we want to inspire that generation. Well, that generation is saying, it's inspiring to me to see a 60-year-old athlete doing something that I thought was only for teenagers. And now I realize that it's possible. So they have a very strong argument, I think, to make. And it sounds like from a lot of the things we're hearing that they're making that argument and they're becoming a lot more vocal about that dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And also I am master plus 40, plus 40.
Master of the universe.
Yep.
Master. I'm not a very good athlete, but I put all my energy in the workout. But all athletes, all CrossFit athletes, and in that division, all everybody going to that
It's
division.
moving towards that division.
Everybody
Well,
moving to that
You're
division.
either coming from that division as a team,
exactly.
or
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
getting there.
Exactly. So like I started CrossFit 10 years ago. I'm going to be next year at the CrossFit Games. I'll be 35 when the next CrossFit Games happens. I'll be 35 before the games. So I'm a masters athlete next season. So, you know, look at who's graduated. Why is this? If you ask the question, like, why is age group participation as a percentage of all open athletes increasing? Well, it's because of people like us. We got older. We got older and now we're still doing it, but we've been doing it for 10 years, but now we're in the 35, or you were 30 when you started and now you're in the 40 category or whatever, or wherever you started in your journey. We are getting older. And as a byproduct of us getting older, we're going to be a greater and larger percentage of the population because we were there when the open first started. And we are still doing it today.
Totally. Well, let's move on. Next question. Part of the next question you've already addressed is which are the what's going on with precautions being taken in the. So we're not going to go into deep with that because you've already answered it. But the question I want to ask you is, how do you see? Let's just talk about CrossFit, not whole sports, because. But how do you see CrossFit evolving from what's going on right now with the virus and developing in the next couple of years? Particularly, I'm interested in in particular in CrossFit, there's a very big movement towards garage gyms and garage training and online coaching. So it's kind of like it takes from the middle of the box affiliates and sends the fitness right into your house.
More in the sports side or more in the CrossFit gym affiliation side?
More in the my question. Let me put back the question again.
Sure.
How do you think? Because there's another issue going on about the affiliation, especially here in Argentina. We lost almost all official affiliates because of the cost and because most of us argue that we don't get what we're paying for, except just a couple of papers of level 1 or whatever. So I take that this is something that is happening all around the world. So do you think, or do you feel that in the near future we're going to see less affiliates and more garage gyms and more online?
Yeah, good question. I think that right now, and I like to use data to answer that question because the data says yes. So, and now exactly why you pointed out one reason, which is maybe that, you know, certain affiliates in certain countries don't feel like they're getting a lot of value for that. And in other areas or in other countries, it could be that they feel something that's different. But what I can tell you is that from the high water mark, I think we pulled this statistic mid last year. We were about 15,400 gyms worldwide. And that pre-pandemic number was 14,790, I think. So here you're already seeing that number from high water mark has gone and started steadily decreasing. And I can tell you already from gyms that have told us specifically, there's at least 50 gyms that have gone out of business. So, and 50 is inaccurate because we know it's larger, but collecting this much data across this many countries is very challenging. So we know it's higher, but we'll use that as a baseline and say, look, all right, we're already down net 50. And there aren't a lot of people opening up businesses today, you know, that are coming in, saying that. Now, I think there are going to be some that say, hey, I've always wanted a gym and now rent is a little cheaper because of economic situation. And
now it's a good time if you got the money.
Right. And people forget this. The time when CrossFit affiliation grew the fastest was during the last recession here in the United States. And gyms were opening up rapidly. Number one reason I believe is that people were out of work and they said, this has been a dream of mine and I think I can do it. And there's deals on commercial property and other things like that. and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump and I'm going to go into business for myself for the first time. And you had all these new gym owners. Well, that was 2012 and 2013 and 2014 when this was happening. And this, you look at the spike. I mean, it's a massive explosion. You're talking adding 2,000 new gyms a year globally, most of which are in the United States, but still globally. So it could be that we have this situation where people say, hey, it's less expensive to get a lease, and there's some other gym going out of business, so I buy their equipment, and other gym equipment providers are willing to cut a discount. And so, hey, it's not as expensive as I thought it once was, and I'm going to make that jump. So it could be that situation is happening. That will happen, but it would have to happen later because it isn't happening right now based off the data that we're seeing. We are seeing a decline in the number of affiliates globally, and we are seeing that in several locations. And so we're looking at that and going, well, how long do they have to stay out of business in the United States or in other countries? And if they stay too long, then they're just going to get cut and they're going to be gone. The other thing you pointed out was about training at home. And I think if coronavirus did one thing, it taught everyone that they do know how to get a workout at home. Many individuals have now figured out that they can, with a small amount of things we knew for a long time. You're like, you only need a kettlebell to get your ass kicked. That's all you need, and you could do a ton of stuff with that. And
Justin, there was a coach some weeks ago. Now I have a bike and barbells and everything.
Bingo. And so, with a simple amount of equipment, you can get in a good workout. Now, a lot of people are missing the community aspect, and we think it's the community that really keeps them coming back. And I think that people are clamoring for that and really missing that element of it. And I think that is going to bring a lot of people back into the gym. But I also think that people are realizing they can create smaller communities, both online, remote, as well as in their garages or in a small outdoor location, if you will, back to the basics of CrossFit. Before the massive affiliation, I remember when I got my first workout, my buddy was like, hey, let's go do this in the park. He tried to convince me to open a gym in like 2006. And he's like, we just buy a bunch of kettlebells, we just go to the park. And I was like, why would anybody do that? Now, I was wrong. He was right. But that's kind of what we've reverted back to. It's a basic CrossFit mentality. It was like, hey, we could do this in our garage. We could do this in a park. And then you're like, we graduated from the park to the garage. And then you graduate from the garage to a gym. And you're like, okay, this is where I meant this. This is great. I think the trend is going to be lower. I think
totally. If you ask me something good that I'm personally taking, I think it's going to take on in the rest of the world of this that's going on, is going a bit back to the basics. You don't need a rower, a bike, a skier, I don't know, so many fancy things. Maybe you just need a couple kettlebells, a couple of bars, and Wally and his friends, they got a private gym called House Project. It's just a bunch of guys that say, okay, let's rent a small place and throw everything we got in there together. And it's not commercial, it's not profitable.
You don't need much. And but that doesn't help CrossFit as a global brand. It doesn't exactly hurt CrossFit, but as a business, it does. And so CrossFit drives its primary revenue streams for CrossFit are, number one, the Open helps fund the CrossFit Games. Number two, affiliation fees, which are $3,000 a year. That directly goes towards supporting the affiliate model and creating the training department for that model and the legal team to defend that model. And then you have L1, L2, L3 affiliate and then online courses. Online courses now, continuing education courses, and then the level 1, 2, and 3 seminar courses that also make up a lot of money. And if your people need certifications, if people don't need certifications to run their own gym that's not affiliated. So, they're like, hey, I got an L1 like 6 years ago, but I'm not going to re-up it because I don't need it. You're like, well, okay, I just won't re-up it. And that's money out of their pocket. And then the other big revenue stream is royalty payments from Reebok and stuff, because Reebok has the exclusive licensing of the mark on their merchandise. So, I could be wearing CrossFit shorts or CrossFit training shirts or CrossFit. There's some limitations to what Reebok can use, but I mean, shoes, shorts, shirts, performance apparel, basically. and they get royalty payments off of that, and it's a huge cut. And that's certainly that that could be going away at the end of will be going away at the end of the contract. We just don't know if they'll be replaced with anything. So as a global brand, it doesn't exactly hurt CrossFit that more people could be doing home gyms or park-based gyms or things like that, or online training or Zoom training. But it does hurt the company itself, and starts constricting the amount of money that the income that they have. And I don't really know where they are financially, and it's pretty impossible for me to tell. But I can tell you right now, with affiliations paused and only the L1 course online, or maybe the L2 is online too, that they're not getting that their paychecks have shrunk.
Mm-hmm. They've already cut before the COVID. They've been cutting budget. With the media team, and
they cut staff again too. I mean, they cut staff again in the last month. I don't know how many people, and it wasn't anybody that I recognized on the names. But we heard that they cut staff, probably I guess as a result of limiting some expenditures and stuff, and feeling they weren't essential employees any longer. So that'd be my guess.
Totally.
Okay. Well, Justin, we told you that the last question is the big question.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Of this sport. And well, here in Argentina, we are very passionate about sport.
Absolutely.
And CrossFit is not the exception. And we want to know, for this last question, we just need one straight answer.
Okay, you got it.
Just one name. Just one name, Justin.
All right,
I look it in the eye. Frohn or Frazier?
Ah, man.
It's easy. One name.
Matt Frazier.
Matt Frazier.
Yeah.
Nos vamos yendo, Has. We took the train.
Okay. We did it.
Perfect.
We got the information we needed.
Perfect. Man, perfect.
I'm gonna get a nasty message.
Excellent.
From this,
it was the best, the most difficult question to you, I think.
It is a challenging question for anybody. If you asked, I don't care who you interview, anybody who's a sport analyst is gonna be a difficult question to answer. And I, the question I answered was head-to-head individual, Matt Frazier or Rich Frohn. Greatest of all time. That's a tough one still, even because, you look at Rich's like record on the team environment and you go, I mean, look, the guy's like a machine of wins. I mean, he's never placed lower than second ever in his life across like
Crazy.
10
Crazy.
CrossFit games or something. It's like, you can't even keep track anymore. In basketball, he'd run out of hands for the rings. He's kind of like in that situation where he's like, he stopped putting trophies in the trophy case a long time ago. So, but individually, head to head, if they were to go to compete this year at the CrossFit Games, no way, Matt Frazier wins.
That would have been great, right? To see them
go
head to head.
Hey, pay-per-view that. Make money on that because it will make money. Sell the rights to advertising, and that will be a significant revenue generator. It's not going to happen. We've asked Rich a million times. He said, no way. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm happy where I'm at. We get it. If they were to compete head to head, I think Matt Frazier competes. Wins it. Greatest of all time. That's a tough question, though. I mean, that's
perfect.
No one's ever going to be able to answer that one.
The sport hasn't been around that long to say, like, for all times.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that for another one, but Frazier, there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
that hurts. It hurts to say it too. It's like, oh, you're like both ways. You're like, shoot. But
yeah.
Well,
killer.
It's part of the game. Justin, we talk about 10 minutes, and we have a long time ago.
I like talking about CrossFit. Hey, you know what? It's
perfect. It's a perfect time. Well, Justin, we first, it has been a real pleasure to have this first chat with you, Justin. I think this was the first time. I hope have a lot of chat soon with you. And awesome. we want to thank you very much for your generosity and to share the time with us. And like I say at first, we all read Morning Checkup with a coffee or with a mate every
Coffee
morning.
or a mate. Yeah, every morning.
Thank you.
Every morning.
That warms my heart to hear that. That's what we want. We want to bring a whole community together and provide something of value. And, you know, we want people to like really get something out of it. And if you guys are, and you're all the way down in Argentina, then we're doing our job. And we just got to keep doing that every single day and keep kicking butt. And that's what we're going to do.
Wow.
Totally, James.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Justin.
Tengo un buen
Bro,
día.
thanks
Ciao.
a lot.